You did everything right. You booked your flight, showed up early, and held your boarding pass with confidence. You trusted the system, the airport buzzed with energy, and you were ready to board. But just as you reach the gate, an agent stops you. Suddenly, your plans and your trust are shattered. I'm sorry, the flight is full. We've overbooked. You've been bumped. The words hang in the air, a stark and sudden disruption to your travel plans. Confusion quickly gives way to a rising tide of frustration and disbelief. How could this be possible? You have a ticket. You have a seat assignment. You followed every rule, showed up early, and did everything right. The logic simply does not compute. The agent's apology, however sincere it may sound, offers little comfort as you watch the last of the other passengers file past you and onto the aircraft, their journey beginning while yours has been abruptly halted on the cold linoleum floor of the terminal. This is the moment when the carefully managed facade of air travel crumbles, revealing a harsh and often misunderstood reality. What the gate agent is not explicitly stating in that moment of high stress and public inconvenience is that this situation is not an accident. It is not a fluke or a rare system error. It is the result of a deliberate, calculated business strategy. Airlines intentionally and legally sell more tickets than there are seats on the airplane. They have analyzed vast amounts of data on no-show patterns and have determined that, most of the time, they can profit by betting that a certain number of passengers will not show up for their flight. When their calculations are correct, the plane departs full, and the airline maximizes its revenue. It is a gamble that usually pays off for them, a quiet and profitable practice that unfolds behind the scenes, completely invisible to the average traveler. But when their predictions are wrong, when everyone who bought a ticket actually shows up, the system breaks. Suddenly, there are more paying customers than available seats, and the airline is faced with a problem of its own making. Someone has to be left behind. And in that moment, the airline's primary goal shifts from customer service to damage control, often at your expense. But here is the critical piece of information they are counting on you not knowing. Being involuntarily denied boarding is not just an inconvenience. It is a trigger for specific consumer protections. Buried within transportation regulations is a hidden clause, a set of rules that entitles you to significant financial compensation. Depending on the length of your delay, you could be owed hundreds or even thousands of dollars in cash. This is not a voucher for future travel or a meal coupon. It is a mandated payment for the disruption they caused. You could be owed up to $2,150, and in this essay, we will show you exactly how to make the airlines pay what they owe. It can feel like a personal slight, a direct inconvenience aimed squarely at you, but the decision to overbook a flight is anything but personal. It is a cold, hard, and incredibly calculated business strategy rooted in a single, unyielding principle: maximizing revenue. An airline's most perishable product is an empty seat. Once the cabin doors close and the aircraft pushes back from the gate, any unoccupied seat represents a permanent loss of potential income. It cannot be sold later or put back into inventory. This reality forces airlines to do everything in their power to ensure that every single flight departs with as few empty seats as possible, creating a powerful incentive to hedge their bets against unpredictability. This is where the practice of overbooking enters the picture. Airlines view it not as a customer service failure waiting to happen, but as a sophisticated form of inventory management. They are essentially playing a high-stakes game of probability, gambling that a predictable percentage of ticketed passengers will not arrive for their flight. These no-shows are a constant factor in the industry, caused by missed connections, last-minute changes in plans, traffic jams, or simple forgetfulness. By selling more tickets than there are physical seats, the airline creates a buffer, a pool of extra passengers ready to fill the gaps left by those who do not make it to the gate on time. From a purely financial perspective, the logic is ruthlessly sound. When the gamble pays off, which it does the vast majority of the time, the airline achieves its goal. The flight departs with a full passenger load, revenue is maximized, and no one is the wiser. The few no-shows are perfectly offset by the few extra tickets sold, resulting in a seamless and highly profitable operation. The passengers who boarded the plane have no idea that the flight was ever oversold, and the airline pockets the revenue from the tickets of those who never appeared, plus the revenue from the extra tickets they sold to hedge their bet. It is a win-win situation for the airline's bottom line. However, this entire system is a delicate balancing act, a statistical tightrope walk where the airline is constantly weighing the potential profit of selling an extra ticket against the potential cost of having to compensate a bumped passenger. The cost of an empty seat is a definite loss, whereas the cost of bumping a passenger is only a potential one. In the world of airline economics, a guaranteed loss is always worse than a potential and often avoidable expense. This is why they take the risk. The financial upside of consistently flying full planes far outweighs the occasional payout for overbooking, making it a standard and highly profitable business practice across the entire industry. The decision of how many extra tickets to sell for any given flight is not a random guess or a simple gut feeling from a manager. It is a highly scientific process driven by powerful and complex predictive algorithms. Airlines employ teams of data scientists and revenue management specialists who analyze immense archives of historical flight data. They scrutinize everything, looking for patterns and correlations that can help them forecast passenger behavior with astonishing accuracy. They know, based on years of information, which routes are most likely to have no-shows, what time of day is most prone to last-minute cancellations, and even how the day of the week can influence a passenger's likelihood of appearing at the gate. These sophisticated computer models take into account dozens of variables to create a precise no-show forecast for each individual flight. Factors such as the destination play a huge role. For instance, a flight to a major business hub like New York or London may have a higher no-show rate than a flight to a vacation destination like Cancun, as business plans are often more fluid than family holidays. The fare class of the ticket is also a critical input. A passenger who purchased a deeply discounted, non-refundable basic economy ticket is statistically more likely to show up than someone who bought a flexible, fully refundable first-class ticket, as the latter has less to lose by changing their plans. The algorithms also learn and adapt over time, constantly refining their predictions. They incorporate real-time data, such as weather forecasts that might cause travel disruptions, major events or conferences in the destination city that could increase demand, and even the booking patterns of connecting passengers. If a large group of passengers is connecting from another flight that is known to be frequently delayed, the system might flag those seats as having a higher probability of becoming available. It is a dynamic and ever-evolving calculation designed to maximize the odds in the airline's favor, turning the art of prediction into a hard science of profitability. Ultimately, this data-driven approach allows airlines to walk a fine line. They can oversell a flight by just enough to cover the statistically probable number of no-shows without, they hope, exceeding the aircraft's capacity. When this intricate system works as designed, the result is a perfectly full flight, a perfect clear in industry jargon. But when the algorithm gets it wrong, when a storm doesn't materialize, a business meeting isn't canceled, or simply by random chance everyone shows up, the system breaks down. The airline's calculated risk has failed, leading directly to the frustrating gateside announcement that there are more passengers than there are seats. The most common question that echoes through a passenger's mind when they are bumped is a simple one. How is this legal? It feels fundamentally unfair, almost like a breach of the basic contract you thought you formed when you purchased your ticket. Yet the practice of overbooking is not only legal, it's actually a federally sanctioned and regulated activity. In the United States, the Department of Transportation, or DOT, explicitly permits airlines to oversell flights. This isn't some oversight or a forgotten rule from a bygone era. It's a conscious, regulatory decision that takes into account the economic realities of the airline industry and the fact that passenger no-shows are, well, pretty common. The government's logic is that without the ability to overbook, airlines would face pretty significant revenue losses from empty seats, and they'd likely pass those costs on to consumers in the form of higher ticket prices across the board. By letting airlines manage this risk through overbooking, the regulations are meant to keep overall airfares more competitive and, honestly, more affordable for the general public. So, in essence, the system is designed to benefit the majority of travelers who get to enjoy lower fares, at the potential expense of the small minority who are occasionally inconvenienced by being bumped from an oversold flight. It's a classic utilitarian trade-off, prioritizing the greater good over individual certainty. However, this legal permission isn't a blank check for airlines to do whatever they want. The DOT's approval comes with a very specific and important set of strings attached: the rules governing denied boarding compensation. The law basically says that if an airline is going to engage in this risky practice for its own financial benefit, it must also bear the financial responsibility when that risk negatively impacts a passenger, and that's the critical part of the equation. The regulations mandate that airlines must first ask for volunteers to give up their seats in exchange for compensation before they can involuntarily bump anyone. If not enough volunteers come forward and the airline is forced to deny boarding to a passenger against their will, the compensation rules kick in. These rules aren't just suggestions. They're legally binding requirements that dictate exactly how much a bumped passenger must be paid, based on the length of the resulting delay to their final destination. This dual system, allowing the practice of overbooking while also mandating strict compensation for those affected, is the framework that governs the whole process. The airline is allowed to gamble, but when it loses, the law makes sure that you, the passenger, hold the winning hand and are entitled to a payout. Getting bumped from a flight isn't random. It's a calculated process based on a hidden passenger hierarchy. Airlines protect their most valuable customers. Elite frequent flyers and premium cabin ticket holders are almost never bumped. Families with small children, unaccompanied minors, and passengers with disabilities are also shielded. The rest? You're ranked by fare class, loyalty status, and check-in time. Gate agents follow strict policies, not personal judgment, when deciding who stays and who goes. Knowing where you stand in this pecking order is the first step to protecting yourself from being left behind. So, who's most likely to get bumped? It's not the loyal or high-paying passengers. If you bought a basic economy ticket, checked in late, have no seat assignment, and aren't in the loyalty program, you're at the top of the bump list. Solo travelers are easier targets than groups or families. The less you've paid and the fewer ties you have to the airline, the more expendable you are. The system is designed to minimize disruption and cost for the airline. If you match these risk factors, you're waving a red flag to the gate agent's computer. You can avoid being bumped by making yourself less appealing to the system. Check in as soon as possible. Ideally, the moment online check-in opens. Always select a seat in advance, even if it costs a little extra. Join the airline's loyalty program, even at the basic level. Avoid basic economy fares if your schedule is inflexible. These small steps move you down the bump list and make you a harder target for removal. Think of it as building a shield around your reservation. If you're told you've been bumped, stay calm. Anger won't help. Politely ask for a printed copy of the airline's denied boarding compensation rules. This document spells out exactly what you're owed and prevents the airline from shortchanging you. Review it carefully. It details compensation, rebooking, and other entitlements. Don't let the agent rush you. Knowing your rights is your best leverage. With the official policy in hand, you're ready to negotiate from a position of strength. This simple step can make all the difference in what you receive. There's a huge difference between volunteering to give up your seat and being involuntarily bumped. Volunteers accept the airline's offer, usually a voucher, and waive further rights. If you're bumped against your will, federal law guarantees you cash compensation. Always clarify. Am I being involuntarily denied boarding? Get a clear answer. Unless the volunteer offer is exceptional, stand your ground and insist on your legal rights. This distinction ensures you get the maximum compensation you're entitled to. Once you have been confirmed as an involuntary bump, your next priority is to get rebooked on another flight as quickly as possible. The length of the delay to your final destination is the primary factor that determines how much compensation you will receive, so every minute counts. The gate agent will immediately begin looking for alternatives, but you should not just stand by and wait. The agent is likely dealing with multiple displaced passengers and is under immense pressure. In this scenario, you must become your own best advocate, and the smartphone in your pocket is your most powerful ally. While the agent is typing away at their terminal, you should be actively searching for solutions yourself. Pull out your phone and open the airline's app, as well as websites like Google Flights. You can often see available seats and flight options faster than the agent can. Search for all possible routes to your destination, not just on the airline you are currently flying, but on competing carriers as well. Find a specific flight that works for you. For example, you might find a seat on a Delta flight leaving in 90 minutes, even though you were bumped from an American flight. Having this specific information allows you to shift from being a passive victim to an active participant in the solution. You are no longer just a problem for the agent to solve, you are a partner bringing them a ready-made answer. Approach the agent with your findings. Instead of saying, "What can you do for me?" You can now say, "I see that Delta Flight 456 departs from my destination at 3:15 p.m. and has seats available in economy. Can you please book me on that flight?" While airlines prefer to rebook you on their own metal, their contract of carriage often requires them to book you on a competing airline if it will get you to your destination significantly sooner. Many agents may not offer this proactively, but they will often do it if you ask directly and provide them with the specific flight information. This can dramatically reduce your delay and demonstrates a level of savvy that the agent will respect. While you are managing the rebooking, do not forget the other essential elements of your compensation. If your new flight results in a lengthy wait, you are entitled to more than just a new ticket. Ask the agent for meal vouchers to cover your food and drink expenses while you wait in the terminal. If the delay forces you to stay overnight, the airline is responsible for providing you with a hotel room and transportation to and from the airport. Be specific and firm in your requests. "I will need a hotel voucher for tonight and vouchers for dinner and breakfast." Get everything in writing or as a physical voucher. A verbal promise from a stressed agent is not enough. You have been rebooked and you have secured vouchers for your immediate needs. Now it is time to focus on the main event, the cash compensation you are legally owed. This is not a goodwill gesture from the airline. It is a mandated penalty for failing to honor your ticket. The amount is determined by two factors: whether your flight is domestic or international, and the length of the delay in your arrival at your final destination, compared to your original itinerary. It is crucial to document your original scheduled arrival time and your new actual arrival time. This delay is the basis for your entire claim. The compensation rules set by the DOT are clear and tiered. For domestic flights, if your new arrival time is between 1 and 2 hours after your original planned arrival, the airline owes you 200% of the value of your one-way fare to your destination, with a maximum payout of $775. If the delay is more than 2 hours, the compensation doubles. You're entitled to 400% of your one-way fare, with a maximum payout of $1,550. The rules are similar for international flights, but the delay thresholds are longer. A 1 to 4 hour delay triggers the 200% payment, and a delay of over 4 hours triggers the 400% payment. These are significant sums of money. The airline must pay you on the day and at the place where the bumping occurred. They are legally obligated to offer you cash or a check right there at the airport. However, many airlines will try to offer you travel vouchers or credits for future flights instead. Do not accept them unless they are for a significantly higher value than the cash you are owed, and you are certain you will use them. Vouchers often come with expiration dates and restrictions, while cash is cash. You have the right to demand payment by cash or check. Politely but firmly insist on it, stating, "Thank you for the offer, but the DOT regulations state I am entitled to cash compensation, and I would like to receive a check today." If the airline claims they cannot issue a check at the airport, get the name of the agent and a manager, and insist they provide you with written confirmation of the amount you are owed, and a commitment that the check will be mailed within 24 hours. Follow up immediately with a certified letter to the airline's customer relations department, referencing your flight, the incident, the names of the employees, and the DOT regulations. By following these steps, you move from being a frustrated traveler to an empowered consumer. You have navigated the disruption, minimized your inconvenience, and are now positioned to claim every single dollar the airline is legally required to pay you for the trouble they caused. The gate agent's voice crackles over the intercom, making an announcement that most passengers dread, but you should learn to recognize as a golden opportunity. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking for a few volunteers to take a later flight." This is the moment the airline's carefully managed system has failed. They are now in a position of need, and that need gives you leverage. Your first instinct might be to ignore the call or to jump at the first offer they make. Both are mistakes. Instead of saying yes right away, you should view this as the opening move in a negotiation. The airline has a problem it needs to solve quickly, and you hold a potential solution. The initial offer the airline makes is almost always a lowball figure designed to catch impatient or uninformed travelers. They might start with a $200 or $300 travel voucher. Do not take it. This is merely their starting bid, a test to see who will bite. Your best strategy is to wait. Let other, more eager passengers approach the desk. As the departure time inches closer, the airline's desperation will grow. They cannot delay the flight indefinitely. The value of your seat increases with every passing minute. Patiently watch as the offer climbs higher and higher, from $300 to $400, then to $500 or more. This is when you can begin to consider making your move. When you do approach the gate agent's desk, your most powerful negotiating tactic is a simple, direct question. Are you offering cash compensation, or is it only a travel voucher? This question immediately changes the nature of the conversation. Airlines love to issue vouchers because they know a significant percentage will expire unused, meaning they get to keep the money. Vouchers also lock you into flying with them again. Cash, on the other hand, is king. It has no expiration date and no restrictions. Always push for cash. Even if they offer a $600 voucher, a $500 cash payment is often the superior deal. You must also understand the airline's alternative. If they cannot find enough volunteers, they will be forced to involuntarily bump passengers. As you now know, this comes with a hefty, legally mandated cash penalty for them, potentially up to $1,550 per person. You can use this knowledge as leverage. You might politely say, I know the compensation for an involuntary bump is quite high. I would be willing to volunteer for a cash amount of $800. You are offering them a way out that is still cheaper than their worst-case scenario. By understanding their predicament and confidently asking for what you want, you turn their problem into your profitable opportunity. A smart negotiation for a volunteer spot goes far beyond the cash or voucher amount. The compensation for your seat is really just the beginning. You have to consider all the logistical consequences of accepting a later flight, you know? A delay of several hours or even overnight can bring a whole bunch of extra expenses and hassles. Now, it's technically the airline's responsibility to cover these costs, but they're not always going to offer them up front. You need to ask for them specifically. Your goal is to make sure that your mini vacation, as it might turn out to be, is fully funded by the airline that caused the situation in the first place. Start with the basics: food and drink. If you're going to be stuck in the airport for more than a couple of hours, you're entitled to meals. Don't just settle for a vague promise. Be specific. Ask the agent for meal vouchers for each person in your group. And make sure to ask about the value of those vouchers, so you know they're enough to actually cover a decent meal at the airport where, let's be honest, prices are pretty inflated. If the delay drags on, you should ask for enough vouchers to cover multiple meals, like lunch and dinner. This is a totally standard and reasonable request. Just be clear about it, and you shouldn't get much pushback. Now, if the delay is significant and means you have to stay overnight, your negotiation goes to the next level. The airline is now responsible for your lodging, so you should immediately ask for a hotel voucher, but don't stop there. Ask which hotel they're using, and confirm that they'll also cover transportation to and from the airport. Usually that's a shuttle or a taxi voucher. You shouldn't have to pay a single cent out of your own pocket. Some savvy negotiators even ask for an upgrade on their rebooked flight as part of the deal. If you're giving up an economy seat, ask for a confirmed seat in premium economy or even business class on the next available flight. Think of yourself as a consultant being hired to solve the airline's problem. Your compensation package should reflect the full value of your service. That means cash for your seat, meals to keep you going during the delay, a hotel for your comfort, and maybe even an upgraded seat as a bonus for your flexibility. And a really skilled negotiator might even ask for a day pass to the airline's airport lounge, so you have a quiet and comfortable place to wait with complimentary snacks and Wi-Fi. By thinking about the whole picture, you can actually turn a frustrating delay into a surprisingly comfortable and maybe even luxurious experience. Section 3. Sealing the deal. Get it in writing, every time. So, you've waited patiently, negotiated confidently, and you've just landed a fantastic compensation package. You've got a generous cash amount, meal vouchers, and a confirmed seat in a better class on a later flight. That's a huge win, but honestly, your job isn't quite done yet. The most important step is still ahead, getting every single detail of your agreement down in writing before you walk away from that gate. In the chaos of an overbooked flight, verbal promises from a stressed-out gate agent are worth less than the paper they're not printed on. A new agent could start their shift, or the original agent could just forget the details of your specific deal. So, insist on a printed confirmation of everything. For the cash compensation, you should get a check or a voucher that you can exchange for cash right there at the airport. If they have to mail a check, make sure you get a printed receipt that spells out the exact amount owed and the address it'll be sent to. For your new flight, don't accept a standby ticket. You're not on standby, you're a confirmed volunteer. You need a new boarding pass with a confirmed seat assignment for the agreed-upon flight. And check that the fare class on your new pass matches any upgrade you negotiated. The same rule goes for all the perks you secured. Don't leave the desk with a simple "we'll take care of it." If you were promised meal vouchers, get those physical vouchers in your hand. If you were promised a hotel, get the printed hotel voucher with the property's name and address, plus any transport vouchers. If you were granted lounge access, ask for the printed invitation or pass that'll get you through the door. Treat this negotiation like a business contract. The deal's not done until every term is memorialized on paper and all deliverables are in your possession. This final step is your ultimate protection. It eliminates any chance for miscommunication, forgetfulness, or a later dispute. With written proof, you have an undeniable record of the agreement you made. That documentation is your power. It ensures the airline has to honor every single promise they made to convince you to give up your seat. Walking away from the gate with a folder full of confirmations is the last move of a smart volunteer. You've not only turned a major travel headache into a lucrative and comfortable experience, but you've also guaranteed that the airline will follow through on its end of the bargain. When your travel plans get thrown into chaos by an overbooked flight, the first thing a lot of folks think is to turn to their travel insurance policy for help. You bought it for peace of mind, right? It's supposed to be your safety net if things go sideways. But when it comes to being bumped from a flight, the answer is often more complicated than just a simple yes or no. The tough truth is, most standard travel insurance policies don't offer direct, specific coverage for being denied boarding because of an airline's overbooking practices. From the insurer's point of view, this is a problem the airline created, and it's really up to them to make it right. Insurers see the federally mandated compensation that airlines are supposed to pay for involuntary bumping as the main solution to the problem. Basically, since there's already a legal framework that gives you cash compensation and rebooking help, they figure extra insurance coverage for the bumping event itself would just be redundant. Travel insurance is designed to cover unexpected emergencies, like a sudden illness, a family emergency, or severe weather that cancels your trip. An airline's business decision to overbook a flight just doesn't fit that definition of unforeseen in the eyes of the insurance company, since it's a known industry practice. So if you're looking for a clause in your policy that says, if you're bumped from your flight, we'll pay you $500, you're probably going to be disappointed. The policy documents are written in really precise legal language, and they're designed to cover specific, named perils. The act of being denied boarding, whether you volunteer or not, is rarely listed as a covered reason for a claim. This can be a frustrating realization for travelers who thought their cancel for any reason or comprehensive plan would protect them from every possible travel mishap. The fine print rules the day, and it usually leaves overbooking outside the scope of direct coverage. So, you really shouldn't rely on your travel insurance as your first line of defense in a bumping situation. Your main recourse, and honestly your most powerful tool, are the Department of Transportation's regulations for denied boarding compensation. Those rules are your guaranteed protection. Travel insurance should be seen as a secondary supplemental layer of protection that might help with the collateral damage caused by the bump, but not the bump itself. Understanding this distinction is super important for managing your expectations and knowing where to focus your efforts when you're standing stranded at the gate, trying to figure out your next move. While your travel insurance policy may not cover the act of being bumped directly, it can still be an incredibly valuable asset for managing the consequences. The key is to look beyond the specific cause and focus on the effect. Being bumped from a flight almost always results in a significant delay, and this is where you can find a potential loophole in your coverage. Most comprehensive travel insurance plans include a benefit called trip delay, and this is where your policy can spring into action to assist you. This benefit is designed to reimburse you for reasonable expenses incurred when your journey is delayed for a specified number of hours. The trip delay coverage is triggered after a certain time threshold has been met, which is typically between 6 and 12 hours depending on your specific policy. Once your delay exceeds this minimum period, you can be reimbursed for expenses like meals, toiletries, and even a hotel room if your delay extends overnight. This coverage can be a lifesaver, especially if the airline is being uncooperative in providing these amenities. It acts as a financial backstop, ensuring that you are not paying out of pocket for necessities while you wait for your new flight, allowing you to claim these costs back from your insurer later. Another powerful benefit to look for is trip interruption coverage. This part of your policy is designed to help if the delay causes you to miss out on other prepaid and non-refundable parts of your vacation. For example, if being bumped means you arrive a day late and miss a prepaid, non-refundable hotel night, a guided tour, or a cruise departure, trip interruption coverage could reimburse you for those lost expenses. This is where insurance provides a level of protection that the airline's compensation simply does not. The airline is responsible for your flight delay, but your insurer can help cover the downstream financial losses that the delay causes to the rest of your itinerary. To make a successful claim under these benefits, meticulous documentation is absolutely essential. You must get a written statement from the airline confirming the reason for the delay and its length. Keep every single receipt for any expense you incur, from a bottle of water to your hotel room. Take screenshots of your original itinerary and your new delayed itinerary. When you file your claim, you will need to provide this mountain of evidence to prove your case. While it requires some administrative work, leveraging your trip delay and trip interruption benefits can save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars, filling the critical gaps that airline compensation alone does not cover. The most effective way to win the bumping game is to ensure you never have to play it in the first place. Avoiding this travel nightmare begins long before you ever set foot in the airport. It starts with proactive planning and a conscious effort to make yourself the least attractive candidate for a bump. The single most powerful action you can take is to check in for your flight at the earliest possible moment. For most airlines, this window opens exactly 24 hours before your scheduled departure. You should treat this moment with the same importance as the flight itself. Set a calendar reminder, an alarm on your phone, or whatever it takes to ensure you are one of the very first passengers to check in. This simple act does more than just secure your boarding pass, it places you higher on the airline's internal priority list. In the complex algorithm that determines who gets bumped, check-in sequence is a heavily weighted factor. Passengers who check in early are flagged by the system as organized, reliable, and highly likely to show up. This immediately separates you from the pool of last-minute travelers who the airline might perceive as less committed to the journey. An early check-in is your first line of defense, a digital signal to the airline that says, "I am here, I am confirmed, and I am ready to fly." It is a small effort that yields a massive advantage in your favor. Equally as critical as the timing of your check-in is the act of securing a seat assignment. When you book your flight, especially a cheaper fare, you might be given the option to have a seat assigned to you at the gate to save a few dollars. This is a dangerous gamble that you should almost never take if you want to avoid being bumped. A passenger without a seat assignment is, in the airline's view, a ghost in the machine. You are a free-floating entity without a physical anchor to the flight, making you an incredibly easy and logical choice for removal when the aircraft runs out of space. The airline doesn't have to reshuffle other passengers to accommodate your removal. Think of the small fee for advanced seat selection not as an optional extra, but as a critical piece of travel insurance. Paying that $20 or $30 transforms you from a name on a list to a person with a designated place on the plane. It plants your flag on a specific piece of aircraft real estate, making you a much more complicated problem for a gate agent to solve. When they are looking for the path of least resistance, the passenger in seat 23A is a far less appealing target than the passenger with C agent printed on their boarding pass. This one small purchase drastically reduces your vulnerability and is arguably the best money you can spend to safeguard your journey. Beyond your check-in and seating strategy, the very choices you make about when and how you fly can significantly influence your risk of being bumped. Airlines overbook most aggressively on flights they know are likely to be completely full. These are typically the most popular and convenient routes, such as the last flights out on a Sunday evening, or the first flights on a Monday morning when business travelers and weekend vacationers are all competing for limited seats. These peak travel times are when the airline's gamble is most likely to backfire, creating a surplus of passengers and a high probability of bumping. If your schedule has any flexibility, you can strategically avoid these high-risk scenarios. Try to schedule your travel during off-peak times. Midweek flights, particularly on a Tuesday or Wednesday, are statistically less crowded than those at the beginning or end of the week. Similarly, flying at less desirable hours, such as a midday flight or the very first flight of the morning, can also reduce your risk. These flights are less likely to be completely sold out, which means the airline has less incentive to overbook them aggressively in the first place. If the flight isn't oversold, you can't be bumped. By choosing to fly when others are not, you are essentially selecting a flight that is inherently safer from the chaos of overbooking. Another smart strategy is to avoid itineraries with tight connections, if possible. While this won't prevent your first flight from being overbooked, it provides a crucial buffer if things go wrong. A passenger connecting to an international flight that only departs once a day is a much more complicated and expensive problem for an airline to bump than a passenger flying on a simple point-to-point route that has 6 more departures that same day. Airlines are aware of these downstream consequences and may be less likely to bump a passenger whose entire international itinerary would be thrown into disarray, as the cost and complexity of rebooking them are significantly higher. Finally, be mindful of major events. Flying into a city right before it hosts the Super Bowl, a massive convention, or a major festival is a recipe for overbooking disaster. Demand soars, and airlines push their capacity to the absolute limit. If you must travel during these high-demand periods, it becomes even more critical to employ every other strategy in this guide. Book well in advance, pay for a better fare class, check in the second it opens, and select your seat. Flying smarter means understanding the broader travel landscape and making conscious choices to navigate around the periods of highest stress on the airline system, thereby shielding yourself from the fallout. In the airline's unseen hierarchy, not all passengers are created equal. 2 of the most powerful shields you can use are airline loyalty and your fare class. These factors directly signal your value to the airline's bottom line, and in the world of overbooking, money talks. The simplest way to begin building this shield is to join an airline's frequent flyer program. Even if you are an infrequent traveler, signing up for the free loyalty program and attaching your member number to every booking is a crucial step. It transforms you from an anonymous one-time customer into a known entity with a documented relationship with the carrier. You do not need to have elite top-tier status to reap the benefits. When a gate agent is faced with a choice between 2 otherwise identical passengers, but one has a frequent flyer number and the other does not, the choice is simple. They will almost always bump the non-member. The passenger who has taken the time to join the program, even at the most basic level, has shown a flicker of brand loyalty. The airline sees this as an investment in a future relationship and will be more inclined to protect it. Sticking with one airline or its alliance partners helps you climb this loyalty ladder, making you a more valuable and less bumpable customer with every flight you take. The second, and perhaps more immediate way to build your shield is by carefully considering your fare class. Airlines have segmented their economy cabins into multiple tiers, with basic economy at the very bottom. While these no-frills tickets are tempting for their low price, you are explicitly trading security and perks for savings. Passengers in basic economy are almost always the very first group to be considered for involuntary denied boarding. By purchasing this ticket, you are essentially volunteering to be at the top of the list if the flight becomes oversold. If your travel plans are inflexible, avoiding basic economy is paramount. Paying a small amount more for a standard economy or even a premium economy ticket can dramatically improve your standing. This slight upgrade signals to the airline that you are a higher value customer. It moves you up the pecking order, placing you above all the basic economy passengers, and often above those who booked through deeply discounted third-party websites. When you combine a slightly higher fare class with an early check-in, a pre-selected seat, and a loyalty number, you create multiple layers of protection. You make yourself a logistically complicated, more valuable, and less appealing target, ensuring that when the airline goes looking for someone to bump, their eyes will pass right over you. The world of air travel operates on a set of rules, many of which are hidden from the average passenger. Airlines have built a system that, while efficient for them, can feel deeply unfair when its flaws are exposed. They have relied for decades on a simple fact: most travelers do not know their rights. They count on your confusion in a moment of crisis, your frustration in the face of disruption, and your willingness to accept the first explanation or offer they provide. This information imbalance has always been their greatest advantage, allowing them to manage overbooking situations in the cheapest and easiest way possible, often at your direct expense. But that advantage disappears the moment you become informed. The knowledge you now possess fundamentally shifts the balance of power. You understand that overbooking is not a mistake but a deliberate business strategy. You know that the selection process for bumping is not random but a calculated hierarchy based on fare class and loyalty. Most importantly, you know that the law provides a powerful remedy, a set of consumer protections designed specifically to hold airlines accountable when their gamble fails, and you are the one left standing at the gate. This knowledge is not just interesting trivia, it is a shield and a sword. Your boarding pass is more than just a piece of paper granting you passage, it is a contract. And when the airline fails to honor its side of that contract by denying you boarding against your will, that contract is not just voided, it triggers a new set of obligations for them. You have the right to be compensated, you have the right to be rebooked promptly, you have the right to be given their policies in writing. These are not favors or courtesies that the airline can choose to bestow upon you. They are your legal entitlements, mandated by federal regulations that were put in place to protect you. Never again should you feel helpless in the face of an overbooked flight. The frustration and anger are valid, but they must now be channeled into calm, informed action. The power has always been yours, embedded in the fine print of transportation law. The only missing piece was the awareness of that power. Now, you have it. You are equipped to navigate the situation not as a victim of the system but as a savvy consumer who understands the rules of the game better than they expect you to. This newfound knowledge transforms you from a passive passenger into an active advocate for your own rights. The regulations governing denied boarding are not suggestions. They are mandates with specific, non-negotiable financial penalties. When an airline involuntarily bumps you, they are not just creating an inconvenience, they are incurring a debt. This is the core principle you must remember. The compensation you are owed is not a gift or a token of apology. It is a legally required payment for the quantifiable damage they have caused to your travel plans, your time, and your finances. Your calm, firm insistence on receiving what you are owed is not being difficult. It is simply enforcing the law as it is written. Let the numbers sink in and commit them to memory. A domestic delay of over 2 hours entitles you to 400% of your one-way fare, up to a maximum of $1,550. This is not a travel voucher for some future trip you may never take. This is cash or a check in your hand on the day of the incident. The airline is legally obligated to offer you this payment. By knowing these specific figures, you remove their ability to downplay the situation or offer you a fraction of what you are truly owed. You can state the facts, cite the rules, and claim the exact amount that the law dictates is yours. This framework extends beyond just the cash payment. It includes the airline's responsibility to mitigate your disruption. They must get you to your destination. If that means booking you on a competing airline, you have the right to ask for it. If it means an overnight stay, you have the right to a hotel room, meals, and transportation, all at their expense. Every aspect of your delay becomes their financial problem to solve. Your role is to calmly and clearly articulate these needs, transforming a moment of chaos into a structured transaction where you are the one holding the invoice for the services required. Therefore, if you find yourself in this unfortunate situation, you must make them pay. This is not about being vindictive, it is about accountability. It is about ensuring that the airline feels the true cost of its business practices. When passengers consistently and successfully claim the full compensation they are due, it creates a powerful financial incentive for airlines to manage their inventories more carefully. Your individual action contributes to a collective pressure that can lead to better practices for all travelers. You are not just getting paid, you are helping to fix a broken system, one claim at a time. You are now part of a new class of traveler, the empowered traveler. You no longer need to approach the airport with a sense of apprehension, worried about the whims of an airline's opaque policies. You can now travel with confidence, armed with the knowledge that you can protect yourself and assert your rights effectively if things go wrong. This essay was designed to be more than just a collection of tips. It is a toolkit for empowerment, a guide to reclaiming your power in a system that has long been tilted against you. Your journey from now on will be different because you are different. This empowerment comes with a responsibility to share it. The next time you are in an airport and hear that dreaded call for volunteers, or see a frustrated passenger being told they have been bumped, you will understand what is truly happening. You can be a resource. You can share a piece of advice, direct someone to the DOT's website, or simply encourage them to ask for their rights in writing. The community of travelers becomes stronger every time one of us shares this vital information. An airline can dismiss a single uninformed passenger, but it cannot ignore a gate full of them. We encourage you to take this knowledge and put it into practice. Like this essay, if you have learned something that will change the way you travel, Subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden rules of the travel industry, designed to save you money and keep you in control. Most importantly, join the conversation. Use the comments below to share your own story. Have you ever been bumped from a flight? Did you negotiate as a volunteer? Did you claim the cash you were owed? Your experience is a valuable lesson for others in this community. So travel well. Book smart, check in early, and always select a seat. May your flights always be on time and your seat always be confirmed. But if that day comes when an airline tries to leave you behind, you will be ready. You will be calm, you will be informed, and you will be prepared. You will know your rights, you will know what you are owed, and you will know exactly how to make them pay. Safe travels, and may you always fly with the confidence of an empowered traveler.